Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 13th of December. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director of Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is a weekly video where we take your requests and I analyse the share price charts for you. So this week we're looking at VTG, NWH, Lendlease, TPM and Evolution Mining. Now if you have a request, make sure you send it through. Please share this video on social media. The more requests that I get, the more chance I have to narrow them down to the more interesting ones. And also just bear in mind that any advice here is general only. So this is a weekly chart of VTG. As we could see, phenomenal run and then a phenomenal descent back down. At the moment it seems to be, bounce for the last 6 months, bouncing around this sort of dollar region. What I've noticed recently, of course, is the peaks are just getting a little bit shorter here. So it indicates that there is still a decent amount of selling. Every time this thing can rally, the selling steps in. So I think unless it goes through this high in August, so obviously the most recent sort of bullish level was, that sort of $1.25 mark. It had a nice sort of rally up there, but the selling kicked in. I think unless it clears that, it's probably just going to continue to struggle. Okay, next up, NWH, which is NRW Holdings. So just looking at a weekly chart, very nice uptrend for the last few years. Still looks strong in my opinion. If we have a look at what it's done recently, so moving to the daily chart, we could see early October sold down just like the rest of the market. But unlike the rest of the market where it's come back to new lows, this thing's been holding up pretty well. And if we just go back to the weekly chart and zoom in, you'll notice that this sort of consolidation here, it's pretty much sitting at a good support level. So, previously we had resistance here just under $1.80 and it broke through that, and it's managing to hold on to that. So I think this is, I think this can rally quite strongly. We're just waiting on improved market sentiment. So it's holding up really well. As soon as we get that improvement, I think this will rally to a new high. So Lendlease, a fairly ugly looking chart. So this is a weekly chart. Just zooming out a bit more. So over time we can see that it had done well up until the middle of this year, and it's just been absolutely belted, unfortunately. It is very oversold on the weekly. If I switch to the daily, so we'll just zoom in, we could see that between mid-November and December it did continue to slide. However, on the daily RSI, that's been trending higher. So that's divergence. So this is going lower, but this is going higher. Usually that leads to a bit of a bounce. But again, coming back to the longer term picture, we're looking at a short bounce within a huge downwards movement here. So I think it needs to use up a lot more time until the market becomes more confident in this one. So probably a short-term bounce and then a bit of base build for a while. TPG Telecom, so we'll just go back to the daily chart. So we had this very nice spike up in August, and since then it's managed to consolidate against that huge spike. So in other words, even though it rallied strongly here, we didn't see a big wave of selling pushing it all the way back down just as quickly. So any sort of selling has been met with almost equal buying, and it's just sort of drifted down. We've got a little double bottom here near $7, so we've got this sort of test of 7 again, and then it's managed to sort of bounce off that. So it looks like it wants to head higher. There's obviously going to be a bit of resistance here at $8, which is where it met that level a couple of days ago. So look, I think this looks very constructive. I think if it moves through $8, we can get a quick rally, at least into the 9s. So TPG looking quite interesting. And finally, Evolution Mining. So we'll just stick with the daily chart here. So this is over the course of the year. Gold stock's doing well to the middle of the year, and then many of them coming off a bit. A lot of resistance here around 290 that it managed to break through. So we could see that it's had a few attempts here, but it finally did break through and it's managed to hold above that. So it's basically in a new trading range now. And most recently we've had the formation here of an ascending triangle. So the higher lows sitting on top of this old range. So that's very bullish. It's broken out. We might get a retest here near 320-ish. I think as long as it holds that sort of 320, 325 region, that's a positive sign, and then I think this one could continue rallying from here. Well, that's all for this week. If you have a request, send it through and we'll cover it next week for you.